Okay, in tutorial 3, we're going to take a look at the character controller. At the end of tutorial 2, the character animation, we were looking at just the single sprite sheet. So we had the character with the sprite sheet animating on this plane. In order to actually make the character work in game, we're going to have to add a character controller property to it. So if you go into the tutorial 3 scene, inside of it, you're going to notice that the character has already defined properties on him, meaning that he has a character controller, he has a character controller here, and he has an audio source. Okay, so we've added two elements to the character at the moment. Now, the character controller, if you haven't used a character controller before, then very simply put, just take the character you currently have, press Control D to make a copy. So we just pushed Control D to make a copy. And you can move this character to the side. We can very quickly remove the character controller, the audio source. Okay. If you're already comfortable with those two things, don't worry about this step. But if this is like the first time for you to go through this process, then be sure that you follow along with these. So all we've done at this point is made a copy of the character. And then we're just simply going to recreate those two components, the character controller and the audio source. So with the empty character selected, we'll just go up to our components. When you go down from components, you want to go to physics, and you'll see a character controller. Alright, when it creates the character controller for you, you're going to have that character controller placed into your characters inspector. This component has several properties available to you. The one that we want to do is change the radius. The radius is going to allow it to be shrunken in a little bit more, creating more of the tube shape for it, the capsule. And then the height itself will be able to go up and down until it's the right size for your sprite. Now, this is one way to control your character. If your character has a lot of moving parts or is like a very different type of creature, you could certainly use more pieces for your collision boxes. At the same time, if you're doing a 3D character, and you bring it in, you'll be able to use its properties for its collision as well. This one's going to allow us, though, to use the character controller's system for movement and for gravity and things. So for this one, if I go down from the character controller, the option down here for the, let's see where it's at, center, if you click on the center for the Y, you can actually adjust this up and down. And what we've determined from ours, if you notice from right here, the best position right now for our characters for placement is going to be right around this size. We're going to have an additional box later that we'll use for feet and one for head. That way with the Mario character jumps on an enemy, we'll have a target trigger for it on his feet. And when he hits a block with his head, we'll have one up there. So at the moment, the size for it that we want to create will be a little bit smaller on the height and the radius. Alright, so having this will provide us with what we need for our character controller, for the size, for the collision box. Also, the audio, if you haven't added an audio before, or you should have, but if you need a refresher course on it, you can go to your components. And inside the audio, there's a listener and there's a source. And we just actually want to do the audio source on here. This is going to allow us to add a clip if we need a clip from here, or if we're just calling it up while we're playing. Which for this one, we'll probably wind up just calling it up while we play. Alright, so those are the two things that you'll want to have onto your character. We'll go ahead and delete this character. This will be the one that we use for the next set of tutorial parts for the scripting side.